Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest buzzwords out there, AI agents. It's a term that's super exciting, but let's be real, it can also be pretty confusing. Yeah, you're seeing quotes like this one everywhere, from tech leaders, in news headlines. It feels like it's the only thing people are talking about. And for good reason. Behind all that buzz, there's a really massive shift happening in how we interact with AI. So what does it actually mean? Let's cut through all that hype, okay? To really truly understand what an AI agent is, we've got to start from the beginning. We're going to build this up from the ground, starting with the kind of AI you're probably already using, maybe without even thinking about it. All right, so level one, this is familiar territory. We're talking about tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, you know the ones. At their very core, all of these are built on something called a large language model, or an LLM for short. The easiest way to think about an LLM is, well, it's basically a super advanced conversation partner. You give it an input, a prompt, a question, whatever, and the LLM just takes all that data it was trained on and spits out an output. It could be an answer, a whole email, a summary, you name it. Pretty simple, right? Input, output. But, and this is a really big but, these amazing tools have two key limitations, and you have to understand these to get what comes next. First, their knowledge is stuck. It's limited to whatever they were trained on. And second, they're passive. They just sit there. They wait for you to give them a command. Okay, so let's put this to the test. Imagine you ask a standard chatbot a really simple real-world question, like, when is my next coffee chat? You type that in. What happens? What do you think the result is going to be? Yep, you guessed it, it's sales. Miserably. And why? Because the LLM has no idea. That information isn't out there on the public internet, the stuff it was trained on. It's locked away securely in your personal tools, like your Google Calendar. So that leads to a pretty obvious next step, right? If the AI can't see our tools, well, we need to connect it to our tools. And that brings us to level 2, the AI workflow. You might also hear this called a compound AI system. Now, in this kind of setup, we, the humans, are still the boss. We're the ones creating a very specific, very rigid, step-by-step recipe for the AI. We're basically telling it, hey, when someone asks about their calendar, you need to go look here, grab this piece of info, and then do that. Okay, so let's break this down. The big difference here is we've gone from a totally passive AI to one that's active. It can actually use tools. That's a huge step up. But, and you can see it right there at the bottom, the key is that it's still just following our plan, a human's plan. And that inflexibility, that's its Achilles heel. It's a massive weakness. Because we hard-coded it to look at the calendar, if we throw it a curveball and ask about, say, the weather, the whole thing just falls apart. It breaks, because it was only built to do that one specific thing. It's a one-trick pony. And that limitation, that inflexibility, is what brings us to the real game changer. This is level 3. This is the reason for all the hype. We're talking about AI agents. Okay, listen up, because of this right here is the single most important idea in this whole explainer. The switch flips from a simple workflow to a true agent when the AI becomes the decision maker. The human is no longer in the driver's seat making the plan. The LLM is. So instead of giving it that rigid step-by-step recipe, we just give it a goal, like book me a flight to New York. The agent then looks at its environment, it reasons about the best way to do that, and it comes up with the plan all by itself. And they do this using what's called a core loop. It's pretty straightforward. First, it perceives the goal. Then, it reasons and creates a plan. Next, it acts on that plan using its tools. And then, this is the magic part, it observes what happened. If something went wrong, say a website was down, it doesn't just give up and throw an error. No way. It sees the failure, adjusts its plan, and tries again. It iterates, all on its own. This is a fantastic way to think about it, seriously. The LLM is the brain. It's doing all the thinking and the reasoning. But now it has hands, the tools it can use to actually do stuff out in the world on your behalf. You're going to hear this term react thrown around a lot. And it sounds super technical, right? But it's not. It's actually incredibly simple when you break it down. It literally just stands for the two things we've been talking about. The agent has to reason about a plan, and then it has to act on it. React. That's it.
Okay, so why is this such a big deal? Who cares? Why does this shift from a passive tool to an autonomous system matter in the real world? Well, let's take a look at the insane impact it's already having.
It's because agents can automate really complex, messy work. We're talking multi-step stuff that used to take whole teams of people. Things like running an entire marketing campaign from scratch, or writing code and then debugging it, or even doing complex financial analysis. This is why we're seeing this future where tiny, lean teams can build massive, massive companies.
And I mean, just look at these numbers. They're kind of nuts. Midjourney is pulling in $200 million a year with 10 people. 10. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. They are basically automating entire departments, customer support, engineering, you name it. It's allowing a tiny little core team to have this huge global impact. This isn't science fiction. This is the new reality. This is insane efficiency, all unlocked by autonomous AI. Now, it's really important to know this isn't some on or off switch. It's not like you have to choose between a dumb workflow and a fully autonomous agent that can do anything. Think of it more like a sliding scale of autonomy. A dial. You, as the person building the system, get to decide exactly how much freedom and power you want to give the AI. And that's the whole key, right? It's all about matching the right tool to the right job. If you've got a super simple, repetitive task, something that never changes, a fixed workflow is probably better. It's more efficient. But if you have a big, complex, messy goal with a ton of variables, like plan my family's entire 2-week vacation to Italy, well, that's when an agent becomes way, way more powerful. Look, this tech is moving from a cool idea to a real thing incredibly fast. We're making a huge leap from AI that just answers our questions to AI that actually goes out and does things for us. And it's not just about business, not at all. Think about your own life. This is about offloading all that annoying, complex, tedious stuff. Planning that big trip, trying to manage a household budget, finding better deals on your bills, all that stuff. So that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you to think about. What is the very first thing, the first complex task, you would hand off to your own personal AI agent?